The new record, a lot of people know the story. We got back together about 4 years ago. We really never really broke up. It was kind of like we just had a parting of the ways a little bit, and not in a nasty way, in a good way. We just needed to do some different things, and we hadn't seen each other in a long time. And back in '04, I did a solo record, and I got a phone call from Carl, and he just said, "I just heard your record. He said, I think it's really great, and makes me want to do something again, on the drums." And I said, "Well, why don't we get together, maybe, have a Rod's reunion, do a couple local shows." And so we called Gary. Gary was up for it. And we had we did two local shows, one in Cortland and one in Ithaca. And, the response to the shows was so phenomenal that we were like blown away. We didn't think anybody was going to be there, But we were getting, because of the internet, we were getting people from out of state that were coming in, and we were getting replies from, all over the world really about us playing and being back together again and the whole thing. So, it was kind of a shock to us, that there was that kind of a fan base out there, like after all the years that had gone by, and we were never really aware of it, back in the 80s, back in the day. So we just decided after we did those two shows, because things went really well for us. I mean, we had a great time playing together. It was like, we never stopped. It was really, the three of us always have played well together. And we just decided, well, let's just keep doing this. Let's do a show now and then, where and whenever we can. And, we didn't have a manager or agent or, record label or anything, but we kind of booked our own shows here and there, and little by little decided to work on material for a new album. And, actually that took a few years to get done because, Carl lives an hour and a half away from me. Gary lives a half hour away from me. And, everybody's got their own, personal thing going on. So it was difficult for us to get together. It wasn't like in the old days where we could get together every day, and work on music. So over a period of time, we got, songs written. We got, the thing put together. And, of course, Ronnie and I, for the last 10 years, had been planning to do something together. We talked about it every time that we saw each other or on the phone, and we didn't know if it would be something that would be Dio related, or if it would be an Elf reunion type of thing, or maybe him singing on a solo record of mine, or on a Rod's new record or whatever. And we always talked about it, but logistically, never really knew if it would happen because we live so far apart. About 3 years ago, Ronnie's mother took ill, and he was coming up into Cortland more often, and called one of the times and said, "I'm going to be there for a couple extra days, and I could sing a couple songs." So at the time, Carl and I were working on putting material together for a Rod's album. So I told Carl that next day, I said, "Ronnie's coming up, and we got to pick a couple songs for him to sing." So, Carl, had this song that he had brought in as a possibility for the Rods, called "The Code," which, it was a great song, but when we listened to it, for the Rods, we thought it's not really a Rod-style song. It's a great song, but we didn't really know if we would, actually use it on a Rod's record, because it really needed to have a vocalist that could really sing, and neither one of the three of us in the band, felt that we could do the song justice by singing that song. So it was kind of there, but we didn't know if we'd use it. So when the opportunity came that Ronnie was going to come sing a song, we said, this is one song that he's got to sing. It's perfect for him. Then, coincidentally, I had just written the song "Metal Will Never Die," like a day before Ronnie called, and Carl and I put that down in demo form. And when we heard that, we thought that would be a great song for Ronnie to sing as well. So we picked those two songs. Ronnie came in the next day and basically listened to a demo CD on a boombox of these two songs he'd never heard before in his life, and went in, to the studio and sang these two songs and did a world-class performance on both of them. So, and that was pretty common for Ronnie, because Ronnie had that knack about him to take any song that he was presented with and making it his own, and making it the most that the song could ever be. So, we had these two songs recorded. We didn't know what was going to happen with them. We didn't know. We basically put them on the shelf and figured, okay, someday down the line they're going to be on a, Rod's record or a solo record or an Elf record or who knows what. Then at the end of, near the end of 2010 or 2009, I guess it was. I'm losing track of the time, but I started my solo record working on that at the same time the Rods were working on it. And when Ronnie got diagnosed being ill in around November of that year, I was working on my solo album and just figured, we talked together and thought that, Metal Will Never Die would be a good song for my solo record. And we could keep the code for, the new Rods record whenever that was done. So that was the plan. And so I finished the solo record and went out to visit Ronnie in the end of February that year. And, we mastered the record, the Bitten by the Beast record out there together because Ronnie said, why don't you bring the record out and we'll master it at the studio that I go to and I'll introduce you to the engineer that I use and so on and so forth. And so we mastered the record out there and that was it. I came back home and, of course, 2 months later, he ends up passing away unexpectedly and, so now that becomes a very important song to me and everybody else and part of his legacy and a tribute to him, so, and now the code will be, part of his legacy and a tribute to him as well, with being on the Rods record. But that's basically how, it's a long version of to answer your question, but that's, that's how it came together.
Well, that's definitely cool. We're going to hear that song right now. Actually, The Code is a very, very awesome song, as I'm sure everyone can attest to.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yes.
Without a doubt.